trade tensions between the European Union and the United States may finally be cooling off as both sides inch toward a compromise that could avert one of the most damaging tariff standoffs in recent history. After months of escalating rhetoric, Washington is reportedly willing to dial back its threat of imposing sweeping 30% tariffs on EU imports in exchange for a more moderate 15% baseline tariff agreement. The deal is expected to exclude certain sensitive sectors such as medical equipment and aerospace components, which had been sticking points during prior rounds of negotiation. If signed, the agreement would mark a major shift in transatlantic economic relations, reestablishing trust after years of trade skirmishes. But Brussels remains cautious. With American domestic politics entering another unpredictable cycle, EU leaders are preparing for all outcomes, including failure. To that end, a $93 billion countermeasure package is on standby, designed to hit U.S. exports hard if talks break down. At stake isn't just economic policy, it's about who sets the tone for global trade rules in the years to come. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has clinched a wide-ranging trade agreement with Japan, and it's already sending ripples through the global economic stage. The deal slashes tariffs on key Japanese exports, especially automobiles, while unlocking an eye-popping $550 billion in investment and credit flows into U.S. infrastructure and energy development. Tokyo sees this as a strategic hedge, ensuring continued access to U.S. markets while navigating an increasingly fractured global trade environment. In Europe, the deal is causing some quiet concern. Many policymakers are now questioning whether the EU might fall behind if it doesn't act quickly. Could this deal become a new template, where tariff cuts only come in exchange for massive foreign investment packages? The U.S.-Japan Pact signals a new flavor of economic diplomacy, one where influence and infrastructure investment are tied directly to trade policy. Brussels is watching, and the pressure to respond is growing. While trade talks with the U.S. continue, the European Union isn't leaving anything to chance. Officials in Brussels have finalized a comprehensive $93 billion counter-tariff package as a strategic insurance policy should negotiations collapse. The plan includes two main prongs, one targeting U.S. steel and aluminum, the other aimed at American cars, agricultural goods, and industrial machinery. The message from Europe is clear. We're not going to be economically cornered. EU negotiators see this as a necessary show of strength, not provocation. With the deadline for a US-EU trade deal fast approaching, the mere existence of this package could serve as crucial leverage. Still, there's risk. Missteps could trigger a full-blown trade war with consequences far beyond the negotiating table. Europe is signaling readiness, but remains hopeful that diplomacy can still deliver results. In a move that's caught many observers off guard, Steve Witkoff, former envoy under President Trump, is conducting a low-profile diplomatic mission aimed at brokering a new 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. His tour includes visits to Rome and possibly Doha, where he's engaging with regional stakeholders and mediators in an attempt to restore calm to a region plagued by years of violence and humanitarian crisis. Though unofficial, the initiative is receiving quiet support from Egypt and Qatar, and appears to be gaining traction among certain EU foreign ministers. What sets this effort apart is its unofficial yet focused nature, bypassing the usual State Department structure and operating with a degree of political flexibility. Witkoff's re-entry into the diplomatic space highlights a broader point. American influence in the Middle East may be reasserting itself, albeit through unconventional channels. The European Commission has voiced strong opposition to a newly passed Ukrainian law that critics say undermines judicial independence and weakens existing anti-corruption protections. This legislation passed quietly in Parliament, drew immediate condemnation from Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who said the changes are incompatible with the EU's accession requirements. In response, Ukraine has promised to revise the law within 2 weeks, but the situation has reopened a thorny debate. How much leeway should candidate countries be given during times of conflict? For Brussels, this isn't just a policy issue, it's about credibility. The EU's stance on rule of law benchmarks is a cornerstone of its identity, and weakening it now could have long-term consequences. With enlargement talks hanging in the balance, Ukraine is under intense pressure to prove that its commitment to reform is more than just symbolic. In an era of increasing geopolitical uncertainty, the European Union and Japan have announced a sweeping new framework to deepen cooperation in high-tech innovation, supply chain resilience, and joint security planning. The deal includes plans for co-investment in semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and clean energy, sectors that both sides view as critical for long-term autonomy in the face of global disruption. Strategically, the agreement represents more than just shared economic goals. It's a signal of political alignment against growing pressure from authoritarian powers. By expanding defense coordination mechanisms and committing to mutual support in cyber defense, Brussels and Tokyo are laying the foundation for a stronger transcontinental partnership. It's a clear message to the world. In the competition for technological dominance and strategic security, the EU and Japan are stepping up together.